Don't put this in your front pocket ever, because it's not going to stay there. I got lucky this time. Sheep, sheep, sheep! Yo, you guys are with me today. I am home all day. Diana's at work. We're going to be doing some cool things. Right now I am heading to underneath the house because I want to find out on this 30-degree day how cool it stays under the house. This could be absolutely imperative to some future projects that Di and I are looking to start. And if you want to find out what they are, you're just going to have to stick around, aren't you? Alright, so right now we're getting an ambient temperature of about 20 degrees outside. It's pretty early in the morning. Let's hop in. You going to come in, Aries? It's only a little terrifying. This is where the wombat's been hanging out. It's pretty dark under here, I'll have to correct, don't mind the graininess. But here's where I'm thinking, because this side of the house, where I'm standing right now, is the sunrise side of the house. Over that side is the where the sun sets, so that tin over there tends to cop the brunt of the sun as we get to the end of the day. What we're trying to do involves culture, so extrapolate what information you want from that as you will. I'm going to set this up and we're going to see what kind of temperatures we're looking at as the day goes on. I'm really hopeful that we can maintain a temperature in here, because that would easily create a whole bunch of opportunities for us. So it's nice and early right now and nice and cool. But today I'm going to move the sheep, but today's going to be a little bit different because I'm going to talk to you guys and answer some questions that you've had about our experience so far with the sheep and what our plans are and how we're planning on managing them. So let's grab everything we need and we'll get at it. You guys are ready for a move. So the first question we have is, how do we plan out the size of our paddocks? So at the moment we're just experimenting. It's a pretty unprecedented time of the year. We're getting rain all through summer. The grass is growing absolutely crazy. This is where the sheep were 2 moves ago. This grass already has enough point on it for it to be grazed again. So it all comes down to how long they're going to be on the paddock to how old their manure is, because the manure actually holds parasites and we don't want them to be around it for too long. If they're just sitting on their poop, then eventually their parasite levels are going to go out of control and we're going to have to take drastic measures to treat them because they're going to get very ill and we don't want that. So right now, this size paddock that we've got right here is about enough for a week. When we get to the thinner areas and you can see there's less grass mass per meter, then I'll make the paddocks a bit larger, and which will also be good for them spreading out and manuring over a larger area. It's good timing for that question because this is a perfect example. I'm not so much whippersnippering a track for the fence as I am digging a trench through the grass. But I mean, this is going to take them a while to get through. Well, this is probably more like a week and a half. Feces we spread out a bit, plus also this way I can add in some of these trees, and we've got a pretty warm week ahead of us, so I want to give them a little bit more shade, a little bit more protection from the afternoon sun. So I'll make it that little bit larger. It'll take them a little bit longer to get through, but there'll be more benefits for them in the long run. Uh-oh. Note to self, don't put this in your front pocket ever, because it's not going to stay there. I got lucky this time. All right, the hard sweaty part's over. The next question is, why this type of fencing? Why not sheep netting? Really good question. I originally wanted to go into netting, especially because of all the fear mongering that was thrown at us. Like really just, it was quite overwhelming. We tend to get that a lot. Like people have a couple of bad experiences and then that's it, that paints the experience as a whole forever. I was skeptical of this system because I was worried about them breaking out all the time, but we had an opportunity, thanks to Gallagher, to test out the fencing and see what we thought. And I'm a complete convert, and I'll show you why. Our setup, Gallagher S100, Gallagher fence line, and Gallagher fence posts. The first reason I want to give is ease of use. I have the whole fence here in my hand, apart from the wiring, which I can hold in my other hand. When you're running a system that is the size that we're going with, you probably need an extra, maybe 2 sets of fence netting. That's extra cost. You're paying for one real setup for the price of 2 fences. Like, don't get me wrong, I love netting and I'll continue to use them. We've got plenty of nets on the property. But for this specific setup, it's why go through that extra hassle. You've got to pack it up in a particular way so it packs away and rolls away cleanly. It's quite heavy by the time you're packing it away that way, because you've got to do everything uniform, one thing at a time, make sure it's not all tangled. Like, why put yourself through that extra effort for little gain? If you're a shorter person or you've got a few more years under your belt, by the time you get to the end of it, you've got full arm pump and you're tired. It becomes a drag to do the job. This just becomes enjoyable. I look forward to coming and moving the sheep because it's an easy job that makes me feel accomplished and I can just get it done. And I'm not breaking a sweat carrying my fence around. I want to give you guys a bit more of a visual representation of my next point. So it's all about the shape of the fencing. So if you look down here, you can see that I've whippersnipped my line and I've kind of picked the paddock size that I want. And so, yep, we'll start putting the fence in, and as we get further down to the end, you start to realize, like, oh no, I need this fence to be tight. You need the fence to be tight because if it's not tight, it's going to droop in sections. You're going to have low sections. They can jump over. It's not going to be electrified because it's going to be grounding out. And you're going to get to the very end and you're going to have to change something. Whether or not you change the shape of that one side, you might have to get the whippersnipper out and go wider on your paddock, which is more time spent. You might have to drag the fence back further into your already grazed section, which has poop you don't want to touch. And that's time consuming as well, because you're then having to move every single pole. If we count out each one of these gaps, I've used five gaps on that one side. When I say gap, I mean the points between each pole, which have to be pulled tight, right? There are 14 on these fences. So I've used a third of the fence for the shape that I would like for the amount of sheep that I have, which means I need one whole fence to add on to this system. So that's 2 fences for only 1/3 the gain. And I don't want a larger paddock because of, you know, feces and how long it takes them to eat. So that ends up becoming really, really limiting to my choices. God, now I've got to pack this fence up. Talking about like extra time and wasted time in that. No, it's totally worth it. Does this mean I don't like the netting setup? Not at all. I love the netting setup. I think it's fantastic. Once you've got the groove of it, it's just so easy to use. We used it on our pigs the entire time we had them. The difference is though, is that we did it with the pigs in winter when the grass wasn't growing. Way easier to make out shapes. Still have a little bit of those problems, but it's not a drama. The netting is way more suited to what's already been eaten out if you want to run chooks after to get those parasites out of your soil. One last point on the fences. All right, and I promise, and then I'll move on. These poles are independent of the fence line, which is amazing because we have really rocky soil. So I can just lift this out, move it along, punch it in the ground. Oh, look, rock there, there we go. And we're in. Yeah, look at that. Easy. This is my favorite part. I wanted to share it with you. I share it with you every time, but it just never gets old, you know? There she goes. I don't even have the fence up yet. I'm just taking this down. The dog will keep an eye on him, you know. If we ever lose the sheep, just call the dog in whichever direction he runs from. That's where the sheep are. Better go find the sheep. I left the chicken food out and they're definitely going to be eating it. Sheep, sheep! Don't leave chicken food out. Sheep, sheep, sheep! Come on! Come on! Sheep, sheep, sheep! There it comes.
Come on. Sheep, sheep, sheep. Come on. That's that done. Man, there's so much grass in here. It's crazy. So I'm just packing up now, which is perfect time for the next question, which is parasite control, which is a really good one. And it's something that we're still learning about. This is obviously our first season of sheep, but we're happy to impart what we know about it onto you guys. What are we doing, and what are our plans, and what do we know? That's a really great question. I'm really glad it was brought up because we want to know what you guys know as well. This is an ongoing issue. It's the #1 reason for lost production in sheep, whether it be random death or whether it be production from an activity of the animal angle, like how much grass they're eating and all that kind of stuff. The first thing that I will say is select your breed carefully. What do you want? For us, we aren't interested in wool. We wanted meat and we wanted lawnmowers. We also wanted good personalities on the homestead and something that'll keep us out, keeping active. So we selected the Dorper breed, and the reason for that is because they're really hardy and they are meat animals. Their meat is really good. The next thing is, what do they need to be healthy? We're in Australia. Sheep aren't meant to be here. Naturally in the wild, an animal will go out and seek out the things that it needs, whether it be minerals or particular proteins. They're really good at sniffing that out and collecting what they want. They don't have it when we put them in a paddock, so we need to bring all that stuff to them. Make sure that you're bringing everything they could possibly need to their pen. If your grass has low potassium, you need to be bringing potassium. Things like that. Because as soon as they start getting a deficit in that realm, that's when you're going to start having problems. They're going to become vulnerable to parasites. Now, as is common knowledge with sheep, they do actually exist with parasites in their gut at all times. Whether they're healthy or unhealthy, there's parasites growing within them. It's the unhealthy levels of that fluctuation that needs to be managed. What are we planning on doing about that? We're going down the all-natural avenue. So we're going to be using garlic powders, garlic water, apple cider vinegar. We use kelp. At the moment, we're just doing the base kind of stuff. Our sheep were actually drenched, which is the chemical version, which is not the angle we're going to go down, but we operate under a take an opportunity, just start kind of philosophy. So once they get here, they're not on chemicals, but we're not too stressed about getting an animal that has had them. Get a couple of generations down the line and we're not going to be worrying about it at all anyway. Another question we got was where we keep our sheep, keep them contained or sheltered. This is our sheep pen. When we first got the sheep, this is where they stayed when we were getting to know them and wanted to get them trained to the fence and stuff like that. Turns out they just were way happier out in the grass anyway. Who would have thought? So this is where it's going to be, and where I'm standing right here, I'm actually planning on building a stanchion, something temporary, just something where they can pop their head through, I can lock their jaw in, and they can munch away at some tasty things while I do more of the body management, because I want to be able to check their hooves, I want to be able to scrape off some of that extra fur. Dorpers shed hair, they don't have wool. I want to be able to shed some of that stuff off, which can stop things like fly-blown situations, which is something that we definitely do not want. So that's all I've got to say on parasites at the moment. We're actively researching. We've got a few avenues that we're going down right now. We're giving them apple cider vinegar, garlic water, and kelp. But we are planning on getting in all those extra minerals that they may not be getting, seeing what they eat and what they don't. We'll be getting the base versions of those. So that's next on the list. And yeah, please comment below if you've got anything else to add. Anything specific to the Australian environment would be really helpful. So much information out there is, you know, Europe or America, and it's not really applicable to a place that has the evolution of no hooved animals. They just don't have what they necessarily need here out in the land, and the more information we can all pull together, the better. If you have any more questions, please feel free to ask. All of the things that I've covered in this episode, I feel like we're going to go further and further into detail as time goes on. It is about 11 o'clock in the morning right now. The temperature is about 25 degrees, so it is warming up, and I put that thermometer under the house. Let's see what we're looking at. 21 degrees. Cool. All right. Well, it's gone up by a degree. It's not ideal, but it's not the worst thing in the world for what we want to do, because I can do some things down there to contain that environment to kind of try and keep the temperature stable. We'll have a look a little later on and see what's going on. we're looking forward to testing some more stuff from Gallagher. Gallagher, just saying, throw some stuff our way, you know?